Hey, Paul. How much of a challenge has this season been overall? I mean, it's something nobody's ever experienced before, but it's your second year as a staff, and has that made it easier to face kind of a difficult situation like this, bring in new players, and how's it going overall? Just as you get ready for your first game.
Yeah, I think we're dealing with the same stuff that all the teams across this country are dealing with. So it's just trying to navigate through a lot of just uncertainty with your schedule, and a lot of uncertainty on from week to week, just what's going to be happening, even just if we're going to be playing. So I think from when we're able to get all these guys together, towards the end of the summer to the start of the school year, we've been able to manage this without a lot of disruptions, and I think that's helped a lot. So we've had, if you want to say, they talk about return to normalcy. Obviously, we haven't had that, but I think we've at least been able to have some practices. We've been able to have some workouts. We've been able to do a lot of things since school started without disruption. So there's been a lot of continuity for a new group. We've been able to spend a lot of time together on the court. Just not as much meeting time. We don't do near as much meetings. We kind of stay away from that. But it's been more and more just like a normal practice year so far for us. Just no scrimmages. We're going into a game on Wednesday, and we haven't really had that scrimmage or two to kind of prepare for it against somebody else. So you're gonna see our first competition against someone else, and it actually counts towards your season.
Paul, how much are you talking to other coaches around the country about what they're doing and how they're handling things, or is your situation unique enough that what they have to say doesn't really apply to what you guys are going through?
Where we've talked to a lot of coaches. Coach Stevens, Jamie Stevens, is doing a lot of the scheduling parts. We got a few. I'm helping them, and from an administration standpoint, we've been in close contact with. So there's been a lot of interaction with other coaches, and so the conversation comes up. How are you doing certain things? I think there's things you're trying to do depending on what county you're in, what state you're in. The regulations that you're dealing with. So it's really different. You can't necessarily go off what someone in Colorado might be saying. But absolutely. I just, any time you can learn from others and maybe a better way of doing something or something that they're doing that is makes sense or works. For what we're going through right now, there's really no handbook for this. So we're just trying to do what's right and what's best by our student athletes, and trying to keep everybody safe and then preparing for a season. So that's all what we're trying to do. These guys have been working hard. Boy, it'd be fun to see them get some games, and I think that's what they're excited about.
To that point, what's the message to these guys? We're already seeing games get canceled left and right across the country. What are you kind of telling them to say, guys, we have a game, but we might not have a game at the same time?
Yeah, it's tough because you want them to be excited about playing, but you also don't want to get their hopes up and then have some things crash, right? So, the message that we're sending with our guys is this is kind of a free season in a lot of ways. Everybody gets this year back. There's a lot of things we're going to learn about ourselves and each other and this team this year. And there's going to be disruptions. I think we've got to have in our head that there's probably going to be some disruptions this year, whether it's through our team or one of our opponents. There's going to be some, and so let's see the big picture. We're gonna try to get as many games in this year, and let's be thoughtful about what we're doing away from here. But listen, it's a virus. You can be hyper careful and still get it. So I think we also got to keep perspective on if somebody does come up positive. I don't want someone feeling just awful about it. They're going to feel bad enough that there's an impact on a team, and so we're living in these circumstances. We all are, and let's be thoughtful. Let's try to do the best we can. And if something does disrupt us, let's not let's not go from a high to a low. Let's just understand our situation and big picture. We get a little bit of time away, and then we get to come back and compete some more. So tricky. I know this. I don't have all the answers for it. We're just trying to be the best team we can through it.
One follow-up, Paul. With scheduling being so difficult, is there a scenario where you kind of schedule games this year where one might fall into place 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, or even during the conference season?
I think absolutely. And some of the games that we're playing, like the Miami game and the Dixie game, are two games that weren't scheduled 3 weeks. They were maybe a twinkle in an eye 3 weeks ago, right? So things are going to happen a little bit different than what we're used to. There's testing protocols that we've got to be ready for, so it makes it hard to maybe do it 2 or 3 days out. But I think a week to 2 weeks out, there's just going to be scenarios that come up, Wayne, where teams are going to need games. And if a couple of your opponents are out for a period of time, we've got to find ways to maybe get some games in the meantime if we're still able to play. So, yeah, I totally think there's going to be scenarios where you could be waking up one day and a week later playing an opponent that you had no idea that you were going to be playing.
Is there a chance you play the non-conference games during the conference season?
Yeah, I know during the conference season we're not supposed to play non-conference games, I think, is if I'm right on that. But within the conference season, if a couple opponents are down, I know those are things that are talked about. I don't know the answer on that. But I know our league's working on those things, and man, there's just, as soon as you come up with a couple good questions and you find the answers on those, people come up with a couple more good ones that you got to dig a little more on. But I think there's some of these things we're just going to be solving as we go, and just trying to do the best we can for all of our student athletes and get as many in as we can, being thoughtful and being smart with keeping people safe.
Coach, so you mentioned the Miami game, the Dixie State game, they all came up pretty late on the radar here. Just for games like that pop up in the future, if you had any other games as well, like how do you welcome that challenge of just having very less preparation time than usual?
Yeah, you can't worry so much about that. How much preparation time do you need? If you get a few days of preparation, I think I'm just being honest here in these circumstances. We said this a couple months ago. If we were going into the season worried about equity in scheduling, we were going to be upset and not ever playing games. So, I just think you've got to keep an open mind. You want to schedule games that make a lot of sense, that are similar opponents, but in the same respect, you want to schedule games that make sense for the current state of our of our country right now, that make the most sense for our players as well. So there's going to be things like that come up. Well, you can't worry about it. Figure it out, and let's go play. We don't make a lot of changes from opponent standpoint. Anyhow, a lot of it's just getting to know personnel and some actions, and then making adjustments. So that's something that we don't want to be too worried about and caught up about. We do want to compete.
Just wondering, with Marlon Stewart handling the ball with so much you did offensively last year, what's that been like, transitioning to kind of a whole new look in terms of who's handling the ball, where shots are going? Is that a work in progress, or what have you seen so far on that?
Absolutely a work in progress. He did a lot for us, and he did a lot for guys like Phil as far as getting him the ball. But you lose a guy like Keenan Walter, who brings a lot of size and ability to space the floor, a lot of experience with Billy. So, but there's no question, Marlon, leading assist and leading point guy, it's a lot to lose. But I also think there's some things we can do team-wise, maybe a little bit more balance, a little bit more movement with the ball. But it's still nice. We've got some anchors. A guy like Phillip's a great anchor for us inside. I think that makes a big difference because he's going to draw attention in there. I think a guy like Deshaun has those same abilities to draw some attention. You guys, you had Mitchell on here, another long, lanky, skilled four that can post as well that I think will draw some attention. And then, I think some of our new guys and returning guys have made steps, and I think we're excited to see them in competition, just to see. I think sometimes when that popcorn's popping and those lights are on, and you haven't been going against the same person for, 28 practices in, or something like that, 26 practices in. I just think it's a good opportunity to really kind of see people in a competitive spirit, and I'm excited about Wednesday a lot for that. Just to see Caleb Nero get out there and compete, and see what that looks like, because he's been doing some really good things in practice, but over and over and over and over, sometimes you're going against the same people. It gets a little bit tougher. So we'll see. I'm excited about Wednesday, but obviously losing Marlon, that's a lot to lose. But I think ball movement's going to be different, and I think again, Philip's a guy that he's got to really establish himself in there, and I think he's ready to do that again this year.
You mentioned Philip. Where have you seen him evolve the most into the role that he's going to take this season, being the leader of the team and the senior?
You said Philip. You said. Yeah, and he's a junior. But
just see him being
yeah.
Season, All-Summer League, all that's being met with him expectation-wise.
The big thing is don't try to be something you're not. Don't try to go out and put a cape on and do it all by yourself. And I think he really gets that. A part of his responsibility is to draw double teams and to draw two people when he's in there. He can stretch it. He can I think getting catches away from the rim to bring some bigs out. I think those are some things that we did some last year, and I liked him to get that opportunity to do more. In particular, because a guy like Mitchell likes to post as well. So those two guys, you can play them together, but they both can get in and get out. So just letting them stretch that game a little bit more, I think, will help. But at the end of the day, no matter who you are, if you get two guys to have to guard you and pay attention to you, that means somebody's open. And once you have that, good things can happen if you can see it and move the ball and get it to the right place. And that's where other guys can really play off of a guy like Philip or Mitchell or Deshaun, and that's where we need to be good too. So that's what's going to be fun to see, is just see how the guys respond around them.
Coach, it's been brought to our attention that Philip hasn't seen the movie Hoosiers. Are we going to rectify that this season with the time that you had on the road, where you guys won't be having as many meetings?
He's never seen Hoosiers? He's never seen. Well, we might have to do something about that. I'm a little bit surprised because he spent some time in the U.S. besides just being here at UND. So I'm a little bit disappointed that he hasn't seen probably one of the best basketball movies of all time. So, I mean, that's on him. I don't think any one of us can take responsibility for that. But we can help him. That could be a good bus movie for everyone involved.